What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews, where I'm your host, John Delray. Today, the Green Bay Packers are in Cincinnati getting ready for the first preseason game, but as we all know, they're also doing a couple of joint practices with the Bengals. I believe for the Packers that this is the first time that they're actually doing joint practices away from Green Bay, so certainly lots to cover. I am obviously not in Cincinnati, as I saw most people did not travel. Just a few of the beat reporters are there, so we're relying on much of their information that they put out throughout the day to give us this recap, as well as a few video clips, because it appears as though the Cincinnati Bengals have a less strict policy regarding taking videos at practice. So, a few injury notes that I want to cover. First, one, David Bakhtiari was back as normal in practice today, as well as Josiah DeGuara was back. Now, from what I read, he was still a bit limited, but he was at least back. Still out, of course, are Eric Stokes, Lou Nichols, Innis Gaines, and Jake Hansen, all still out with their various injuries. By the way, in case you didn't see the news, Rashawn Gary is now back. Yes, I talked about that a little bit in the live Q&A the other day, but he is back. And we're now about 30 days away from week one, so he's got some time to get ready. Like, there's a chance he's going to play in week one, which after tearing that ACL, and I think it was week 9 last year, that is quick. And we really shouldn't be surprised with Rashawn Gary that much. So one other thing that I wanted to talk about real briefly is I did post it on this channel in the community notes that the unofficial depth chart of the Green Bay Packers has now been released. Most teams did it yesterday. And I know I saw a lot of conjecture, like some people believing that this was a big deal, other people believing that it's not at all a big deal. But the truth is, I mean, it does offer some little glints of information. I know maybe it's not coming straight from Matt LaFleur. Maybe it's not coming from Brian Gutekunst. Maybe it's coming from the assistant who normally gets coffee. Like, whatever the case is, someone put this together. So I put it out there. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's in a very, tons of different places. You can go take a look at it, but take it with a grain of salt. There are a couple notable things on there, such as Josiah DeGuara being listed as a fullback, different things, but you take it with a grain of salt because, of course, it's subject to change anyway during camp. Now, let's get to practice today. Right before practice, Matt LaFleur said he's still unsure about the plan on Friday for the preseason game, how much the starters are going to play. So, for Matt LaFleur, he believes that this is probably the best chance that the ones have to go against the ones of the Bengals. Makes the most sense, right? Because the Bengals, as much more of a contending team, I think we would all agree, are probably going to sit some of their starters on Friday versus today where some of those starters are not sitting. So this is possibly the biggest day for ones versus ones. And tomorrow is going to be much more of a walkthrough practice, being the day before the game. I think they're still going to walk through against each other, but still, this isn't going to be intense. Now, after practice, Jordan Love did say that he didn't say these exact words, but he did say that playing in the preseason, especially the first one, will help get him back in that game mentality, and he's probably going to be playing at least a few series, which is a reasonable expectation for preseason game number 1. Now, on the field today, let's talk Anders Carlson first, the rookie kicker who certainly has been up and down. I don't have any holder for you info for you today because I didn't see any of the beat writers attach the holders to these attempts, but ultimately I can say that Carlson was 7 of 10 on the day. His misses, again, his first kick of the day, which happened to be an extra point. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why the first kick of the day is such a problem for Carlson. Even on his best days, that first kick of the day is always the problem one. And it was an extra point attempt for the Packers today, and it was a miss. His other misses came from 56 yards and 58. Those are respectable misses, especially I guess the 58 one just fell right in front of the goalpost. He just didn't quite have enough on it. So, is what it is. However, on his 7 makes, his longest one was 51 yards on the day. He does have 50-yard plus leg power. I talked the other day about how he had one kick that would have been good well over 60. So, just bear it in mind, but 7 of 10 on the day today. A few depth notes for you. There was a fight A brawl. Elton Jenkins getting involved in stuff today. Apparently there was one play where Elton Jenkins was blocking. I think it was like on a screen, and he wound up putting a linebacker on his butt. That linebacker didn't much appreciate that. And so the linebacker stood up, and we got a good old tussle going on at Packers Bengals training camp. Now that one took a little bit of time to kind of dissipate. Apparently Elton was quite angry afterwards. Elton sat out a few reps after that. And then a little while later, Packers are doing another play, and Elton Jenkins is going up against defensive tackle of the Cincinnati Bengals, DJ Reader. And Elton didn't like something Reader did or said, and Elton swung and punched him, slapped him, whatever, on the side of the helmet, which started another little tussle. And then Elton Jenkins was escorted out of practice by offensive line coach Luke Butkus. The reason why I bring this up is, one, fighting at these joint practices always seems to be inevitable, right? It's hot out at this time of year. Tensions are high. Lots of guys are, they're sick of hitting each other. Now they can actually hit somebody else from a different city. Guys are fighting for their jobs. There's a lot going on and a lot of tension in the air. So these fights always seem inevitable. But the depth chart worthy note here is that after Elton Jenkins was taken out, the first time when he took a couple plays just to cool down off to the side, and the second time when he completely was escorted out of practice, Royce Newman was the one who filled in with the ones at left guard. Not Sean Ryan, not anybody else, but Royce Newman was the one who filled in guard. So it did feel important that he's the next man up on the interior offensive line, be it right or left side. Another important depth note is it was seen by a couple of the beat reporters that Jonathan Owens began rotating with Dallin Leavitt at some of the special teams opportunities that Leavitt normally holds. Now, we've talked before about how Leavitt is not someone that you want playing on the defensive side of the ball. He's a special teams ace. And if the Packers are seeing whether a safety who you don't actually mind playing safety can do those things just as well as Leavitt, yeah, I'm doing the math, and I don't think that sounds great for Leavitt and his chances to make this roster, so something to keep an eye on. Plays of the day. There were a couple, from what I understand, recapping everyone's news. Number one was Alex Magoo to Malik Heath. Perfectly hit him in stride on a go route. I could not find a video of that one at all, but apparently it did happen. Then beyond that, Love to Dobbs for a 51-yard touchdown. Yes, there is the clip of that one. Now, overall for the offense, from what I understand, it was an up and down day. Another day, really, where the offense started out slow and then kept growing, gaining rhythm as they went. Apparently in teams, the first session, Love was overall 3 for 5 with completions to Pearson, Toure, and Watson. It's been mentioned by a few of the Bengals beat reporters that the Packer D was smothering, dominant on their side of the field. So keep in mind, at these joint practices, basically what happens is it's like Packers O versus Bengals D at one side of the field. Other side of the field, they're doing like a mirroring drill, except it's the flip, right? So kind of cross notes going on here. But in the Packers side, Love was 3 for 5 with completions to Pearson, Toure, Watson. Over on the other side, the Packers D was smothering and dominant. So keep in mind, too, that Joe Burrow's not there. So, Bengals aren't exactly at full strength. Then, moving on to the red zone, which was another drill that they did today. Jordan Love wound up being 4 of 8 in the red zone, passing for 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did have 1 drop by Jaden Reed as well that it's believed would have gone for a touchdown. The highlight here, though, was the 1 interception. Apparently, I don't know why you do this. The Packers decided from the 3-yard line to call a bubble screen. And the cornerback in coverage read it like a book and picked it, and it very well might have been a pick 6 from everything that I read. Again, I couldn't find video of this one. So, obviously not a great decision by Love to actually follow through with the screen when the cornerback was right there. But the larger issue, in my opinion, is you're calling a bubble screen on the 3. What do you think is going to happen exactly? Not a fan of bubble screens normally. Doing them at the 3 just seems like malpractice. But then beyond that, in the 2-minute drill, the thing that really seemed to close out practice, Jordan Love wound up being 4 for 7. One of those incompletions was even a clock-killing spike. So ultimately, 4 for 6, 4 for 7 in the 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill, they did not quite reach the end zone, but Anders Carlson, that was the very, very long field goal he attempted. One general note about the Packers offense that I saw quite a bit today was it was a lot of underneath throws. Apparently the Bengals defensively really tried to take away the deep ball today. Now we saw on the Dobbs play that didn't exactly work. But we did see other plays where Love was mostly focusing on the intermediate to short throws. Lots of checkdowns, a lot of quick passes in the short yardage. And I think that's going to be a very, very common theme throughout this course of this year. Not unsimilar or not dissimilar to what we saw with Rodgers. You know, teams do not want the Packers to have the ability to throw the ball deep. So they take that away and they say, we're going to force you to beat us up close. If you start doing that, then we'll switch up our coverage a bit. So I think a lot of Love's game is going to be predicated on in-time throws in shorter ranges. So the other thing that I would just say offensively today is Luke Musgrave is going to be a very big part of this offense. His role seems to be growing somehow. He's a second-round pick, tight end, right? We've talked about how they haven't had that kind of athletic ability at the tight end position in forever. Maybe he's the most athletic one the Green Bay Packers have ever had in 100 years. But what's becoming more visible is the connection that Love and Musgrave are building. He's very, very involved in this offense, and Love has shown no hesitation to get Musgrave the ball. Now, today, Musgrave was mostly lined up out wide. Maybe probably doing slot. I doubt he was all the way out like a wide receiver. But still, this development of Love throwing to Musgrave more and more and more in these team reps, I think is something very indicative of the relationship that may carry itself into the regular season. Now, defensively, there wasn't a ton. Most of the Green Bay reporters are focused on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, I had to go look at the Cincinnati beat reporters, and I can tell you Joe Goodberry, he wrote about how the defense was dominant, how Lucas Van Ness already appears to be a handful, and Kenny Clark obviously there too. So the Bengals had a lot of difficulties blocking. The QBs for the Bengals apparently looked very bad as well, of which, bear in mind, Joe Burrow isn't there, so the Bengals are using their depth. But he also made note of a bunch of pass breakups. So we've been asking the question all camp long. Is the Packers defense actually doing well? Or is it just that the Packers offense is that bad or that young or whatever? Right? Well, now we're beginning to see it against other teams. I don't want to say get your hopes up yet. But the defense, it's churning. And it's moving a certain way, which is exciting. Thanks so much for joining me here on Lombardi Time Brews. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to put out a video updating my 53-man roster prediction as we're going to keep going. I might do one of those a week corresponding with every preseason game. And then on Friday, I'm going to put out a preseason primer, just things that I'm looking for in this first preseason game specifically, but all of the games here on out, recapping the position battles and what it is that I'm truly looking to see. Thanks for joining me here on Lombardi Time Brews. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. And as always, go Pack Go.